G'day punters, welcome to a big edition of Greyhound Gold. My name's Brett Honey, flying solo this week. David Shaw unfortunately out of action with all that's going on with the Western Trilogy, but we will do our best without him. It is of course Greyhound Utopia this week in Western Australia. We've got the second edition of the Sandgroper on Thursday night, but that's not all. Friday night we have 4 heats of the Mandurah Derby at listed level over 480 metres, and of course the Group 3 Miata on Saturday night back at Cannington. That's complemented by 5 heats of the WA Sprinters Plate over the 380 metres. So there's plenty to get stuck into, a full agenda today. But before we get into all of that, we'll go back to our run of the week last week, which was one of the heats of the Miata, and it was taken out by number 5, 90 Mile Rose for Michael Johnson, who had a good night on the evening. He began really well, 90 Mile Rose, was able to outmuster Chloe Ant and Care Factor in the early proceedings, was able to jump out to about a 4-length lead through the first bend. Care Factor eventually working into second. Favourite Westside Nugget, who was well supported on the night, was well back and finding a lot of traffic, and throughout the middle stages it was all 90 Mile Road. She showed superb muster through the middle stages, ran some really good splits, put up about 6 lengths up the back straight with Care Factor, Chloe Ant and Hot Pursuit up the back straight. Getting tired a bit late was 90 Mile Rose, but when you go 29.68 up the back, you've got plenty in hand. Was a very easy and comfortable watch for 90 Mile Rose punters, winning by 5 1/4 lengths. Western Nugget was a really good run despite the circumstances. Flew home to grab second from Care Factor, who went well again over this 715 metre trip. It was the third of a treble for Michael Johnson. The early splits were 5.57, 29.68, 12.29 on the run home. A very respectable 41.97 overall for 90 Mile Rose. She's a very fast greyhound when she gets on the arm. Isn't the most consistent of greyhounds out there, but when she does get on her terms, she's very hard to beat, and she'll be very hard to beat again this week in the final of the Miata. Won't be the last we hear of that race. One of my value bets comes on that a little bit later on in the show. Let's talk about this Sandgroper race on Thursday night. A star-studded field, 7 Victorian dogs to 1 local hope in Sunset Frazier, jumping from box 3. Big Energy is your favourite. Trialled the track record last week in 29.25. Has come up with box 1, but I'm going to go searching for a bit of value with number 7 Trooper Tears, currently around $7.50 and $2.25 for a place with Tab Touch. I really like the wide draw here for Trooper Tears. Only has to deal with Explicit on the outside, but watching Trooper Tears through the Perth Cup Series, he did begin really well from inside draws. So wanted to shift right up the track, particularly in that heat when he got clear running. Nearly ended up out by box 8. So box 7's no concern here. With Big Energy on the inside, he's going to have to deal with Sunset Frazier, who we know is a very good beginner over the 520 metres and back at Cannington, importantly for that K9. So Big Energy's going to have to do a fair bit of work in the early stages of this race. We know he's not great out of the lids and it's more of a mustering type, so a few concerns there for the favourite in Big Energy. Trooper Tears, we know he can run around 29.45 at Cannington. I think if he can get out on the arm, which he's more than capable of doing over this trip, even if he's the first dog behind Sunset Frazier, that $7.50 is going to look very tasty indeed. I did want to try and find Mapunga Smoky from the middle draw, but just with Fernando Phil on his outside, I thought that made the task a lot more difficult. So I'm going to stick with Trooper Tears in the Sandgroper. Didn't quite get it done in the Perth Cup, but can certainly make up for that and some this Thursday night in the Sandgroper. What a race that will be. There's some other feature races on that card as well, including the Sun Chaser for some of the local dogs over 520 metres as well. Looking forward to that. Let's turn our attention to Friday night chasing at Mandurah. My best bet, race 8, number 2, Meineke Boy, going to the heats of the Derby for my selections on Friday night. Look, we know this greyhound just loves Mandurah, and although there's a fast beginner who does want to shift up the track in box 1 in Fancy That Fred, I actually think this might actually play into the hands of Meineke Boy. He's not always the best off the mat, and I just think that with Fancy That Fred beginning from the inside, that actually might hold up Sunset Pepper, who's very capable over the 488 metres at Mandurah, and with that I just think there could be a rails run on the inside for my Aniki Boy, and if he does that, we know the times that he can run over this distance, and he will prove very hard to beat. He's already been well supported with Tab Touch into a pretty short quote now of $2.40. I'm hoping that can get back out towards $3 on the night, but he's certainly a force to be reckoned with at Mandurah. That's race 8, number 2, my Aniki Boy. For a value bet, going for a smoker here, race 6, number 5, Toad, who recently won the Autumn Maiden Classic at Cannington, a very fast time in the 29.70s, which is a really good effort, and I do see Mandurah actually suiting this greyhound. He does begin well, just noticed that he just struggled around the bends at Cannington, and we know that Mandurah is a one-turn circuit after that. Start on the bend, it's pretty much a one-turn circuit after that anyway. I think that's going to suit Toad. Clearly, he's got the ability, and he's steeply up in grade here, but if he can find the front at $12.340 a place with Tab Touch, I'm fairly confident that he can run a big race. So it's race 6, number 5, Toad. It's got race 8, number 2, My Aniki Boy. At Mandurah, switching back to Cannington now on Saturday night. As I said, the Group 3 Miata is highlighting this program. We've also got 5 heats of the WA Sprinters Plate. One of my best bets is in that series. Race 9, number 3, Outlaw McGraw for Michael Hine. Really liked how this greyhound went about it last week at Cannington over this distance. Had to overcome a little bit of traffic early. Still went 21.73, which will be winning this. Didn't think there was a lot of pace in this race. I think Idle While out in box 8 can actually work to Outlaw McGraw's favour here and sort of keep Van der Collen, who's quite a nice type in box 7, keep him at bay, and that will allow Outlaw McGraw to do his thing in the middle of the track here. We know he's very fast. We saw that last week, and I think he can rinse and repeat here in the heats. He's at $4 with Tab Touch. Thought that was quite a nice price. For a bit of value, I'm going to the Miata, and I do have a good opinion of this dog. Race 3, number 2, Care Factor. Like the inside draw here, there's plenty of speed here. The likes of Argyle Queen, Penny Magic, those 2 heat winners. And you also got the likes of Chloe Ant in this race. Sage Sunil can begin a lot better than what she did last week. Plenty of pace here. I'm just hoping that there's going to be a rails run that opens up the Care Factor here. I don't think that he can go with those greyhounds early, but if he can just stick to the rail. Look, I was really impressed with his first effort over 715 metres. Did look a little flat last week, but now he's having his third run over 715 metres. He should be fitter. He's a big price here, $13 and $3.30 to place. I think he's an each way bet to nothing here, Care Factor. I'm very confident that he can place, and if things go his way up front, he may even run away with it. So race 3, number 2, Care Factor. It's got a race 9, number 3, Outlaw McGraw, Cannington Saturday. As you can see, there's plenty to sink our teeth into this weekend in WA Greyhounds, and it's a great time to come out to the track. Why not come and see what could probably be the best atmosphere you'll have all year at Cannington with the Sand Groper. All the slot holders will be out here. There will be a party-like atmosphere, and it's a great way to start your weekend. If you're in the Peel area, the Mandurah Derby heats have got you covered Friday night at Mandurah, and if you're lucky enough to have a winner at the Quokka at Ascot on Saturday, why not finish that off with a really good night out here at Cannington on Saturday night? But regardless of how you enjoy this week's action, make sure you tune in this week when I'm joined again by Shorty next week on another edition of Greyhound Gold.